Hello, you're in the Beat Sessions. I am your host, Mitchell Weary. Hope you've all had an excellent week. I know that I've enjoyed mine with all that music that came out on Friday. My headphones have been on nonstop, and I'm really happy with everything that I've listened to, especially this next project that we're going to talk about, the new record from Scott and Cudi, aka Mr. Rager, aka Kid Cudi. He dropped the third installment of the Man on the Moon series on Friday, titled The Chosen, and I'm really pleased with the way that he wrapped up this project. If you're not familiar with it, it began in 2009 with his debut, The End of Day right here. I have that. He followed it up in 2010 with his second album and the second installment in the series, The Legend of Mr. Rager right there. These are both phenomenal albums. There's a lot of cool guest appearances on them. If you haven't checked them out, I'd probably suggest doing that before you listen to The Chosen, but you're all big kids, you can do whatever the hell you want. Now, what I'll say about Kid Cudi is that he's always been one of my favorite hip-hop artists. It wasn't until around the time that these albums came out that I started exploring the genre, and as someone who had listened to a lot of other music prior, I really enjoy the way he incorporates electronic music, indie rock, there's dubstep, psychedelic music. There's so many influences that he incorporates just seamlessly, without his music seeming contrived or generic. And if you read about him, he talks about in interviews his range of influences. He got Tribe Called Quest and Pharcyde on the hip-hop end of things. He talks about Rat-Tat-Tat and MGMT being big influences electronically, and they both appear on his first record as guests, so I think that that is pretty cool. Talks about Jimi Hendrix and Pink Floyd, listening to some of that classic rock growing up, so can definitely see the psychedelic influence coming from that. But again, I've always admired him for his songwriting ability and for him to just take all of that listening experience and bring it to these albums. The other thing too is I've really always appreciated his lyrical content. It's emotional, introspective. It's something that wasn't really common in the rap genre up until he came along. Eminem did some stuff kind of broken into. Cudi came along as well, made it more popular, and then you have artists like Kanye West, older artists and newer artists. I look at guys like Post Malone that followed suit, and so it's really cool to see the way that this trilogy has had an impact on the hip-hop genre. Now, I was beginning to wonder if we would ever get this third installment. There was so many other things that he's worked on over the last decade, got into acting as well, and he's the type of artist that is going to do things organically. He's certainly not going to force it. But it's pretty cool that if you read about this project, he talks about how he was working on songs for... He talks about how he was working on a new Wizard project. He released a song with Eminem called The Adventures of Moon Man and Shady, which alludes to the Man on the Moon project. And he began writing songs that just felt like they were the next step in creating this third installment. And thankfully, he pursued it, and we have this phenomenal album that gives us the conclusion, maybe. I'll get to that in a little bit. But like the other albums, it's constructed in acts. The first two albums were constructed in 5 acts. This album is constructed in 4. And I'll say something about that too. I think it's pretty cool that he went Shakespearean on the first 2 records, but as we all know, Shakespeare does comedies and tragedies, and these certainly aren't comedies. And so I appreciate the fact that he did this third installment in 4 acts, and I think it alludes to the idea of a light at the end of the tunnel, coming out on the other side of difficult challenges and not being the same person, but having grown and learned how to cope with the challenges that life throws at you. He's had certainly a lot to go through over the last decade as far as what his fame has brought to the table, how social media has influenced the way an individual handles that is definitely a big factor these days for celebrities. So the album starts with the first 2 acts, and you get a descent back into the alter ego Mr. Rager. The couple of the opening tracks on the record, the second song, Tequila Shots, and the 4th song, She Knows This, are really solid. Kind of get that old school hip hop feel to both of those tracks. And obviously Mr. Rager is out, and so the lyrical content definitely tends to be a little more heavy. But as you get into the second act, moving along into that, there's a great song called Heaven on Earth. It's got a fuzzy beat, or a heavy beat, fuzzy bass. And it sounds like there's sleigh bells. It's almost really appropriate for Christmas time, but it's dark and brooding, but still just a fantastic track. Show Out, pretty solid song with Skepta, British hip hop artist that's come along quite a bit this year. He was on the new Gorillaz album recently. Pop Smoke is on that track as well. Sad People has a cool R&B influence. The Void, Rockstar Nights in the 4th act, really solid tracks that, you know, definitely give that aura of positivity that Cudi has always been leaning towards with that project. And I really like the song Elsie's Baby Boy. Now, this song starts with a verbal track that is from the movie Stand By Me, and it's the very end where Gordy and Chris are talking, and, you know, Gordy's talking about getting out of town, and, you know, Chris says, "Hey man, you'll do it," and, you know, slap me some skin, see you, not before I see you first. And again, I think that's the one thing that I've always loved about Cudi's project here. While there are so many dark moments with that alter ego, Mr. Rager, his frustrations, the things that have happened in his life that have caused difficulties, but it's about learning to handle and cope with those things that happen to us and coming out stronger on the other side of them. And it's really just a cool note, especially in 2020, in a year where so many of us have really endured a lot and been through a lot. But like Cudi insists, you know, this is going to make us stronger. We're going to come out better on the other side of this. And I think that makes this album really cool, considering the time that it's come out. It's super relevant, and I think it will resonate with you. Resonated with me quite a bit. I'm going to give this a big time vinyl please. I'm going to add it to the stack of records that I need to pick up the next time I go to Zia. Until next time, I'm Mitchell Weary. Please subscribe to my channel. Crush that like button for me. Helps me build this project up. Take it easy.